Hi Tom, how are you?
Hi, Rachel. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. So to start, obviously prior to this current season, it was Billy the Kid was a big success, but now you also have what I'm assuming is a much bigger fan base coming into the third season because a lot of people turned to it after the Hunger Games. How's it been for you, kind of seeing fan reaction and knowing that a lot of people came to this for you and are now very excited for season three that maybe weren't watching the first two as they aired?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think we already had a really loyal fan base to begin with season one, which was lovely, like a very kind of cult following, especially people who love Westerns. And I grew up on Westerns, so I kind of appreciate that. It's definitely a show that I would have watched.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, I can't help but be very grateful that like people who responded to the Hunger Games also responded to Billy as well. Um, and that yeah, they may not have found it had it not been for that. So it's kind of, but I love that. I love that about like the industry and that people can kind of discover an actor they may like and then discover other work that they didn't know they would like. Like I think a lot of people who maybe are fans of the Hunger Games, you wouldn't expect to be big fans of Westerns. But there now is some more overlap. So it's kind of great to maybe be part of ushering a new fan base in to a new genre. Um, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and I have to assume it's very fun because you're like I'm an American clearly, and I grew up listening to stories about Billy the Kid, and so
Yeah.
to see a show like this is very fun because you're seeing a fictionalized version of this story that we all kind of know. When you're approaching that, do you have to separate yourself and be like, I'm just playing the character that's on the page, or do you bring in a lot of that lore within the character and how you're portraying him?
Yeah, I think there's so much out there, there's so much history, but there's also so many gaps in the history as well. Like I've read a bunch of books obviously over the past couple of years about him, and one thing you always find is that like they all kind of hit the same beats. There's all these moments that everyone kind of agrees happens, but there's so many moments that people either dispute or that there's just like gaps in the history. Because it's not like now where like because of the internet we can kind of track where someone is and what they're doing at all times, which is crazy. Like then was like still anonymity even for people who were infamous or famous. And so like there were years or like periods of 6 months where like he was in Texas, but nobody knows what he was doing. And so because of that, it means that like, and there's also there's contrasting opinions about him. So because of those two things, it's like you get to kind of use that as license to like kind of make your own mind up a little bit about some stuff, or just like ask the questions and let the questions kind of hang there. Um, so I do a lot of that. I do a lot of like there are certain things you can't get away from. Like every now and again, I like to, especially now in season two, part two, which is coming out. We I've always wanted to try and filter in a little bit more of like as he gets more confident in himself and as he gets more confident as a leader and as an outlaw, he's starting to kind of actually enjoy it a little bit. Like there's moments where like he's not quite so like back-footed, he's a bit more front-footed, and he's kind of like from time to time you'll see him smile at moments that he didn't used to smile at and stuff like that. And it's something that I wanted to layer in, and that Michael Hurst and I talked about layering in from the beginning, which is like season one, he's this young guy who like he looks up to these gunslingers, but he's not one yet. He's still learning. And in season two, he begins to really become this kind of more confident, wily guy who's capable of leading people into battle. He's like a general now.
Yeah. And for my last quick question, I have to ask because I this is the only example I really can think of right now, but it's like our flag means death would bring in pirates like as we went on
Yeah.
the show. But are there any outlaws that you're really hoping eventually that we get to see come to life on Billy the Kid and kind of see how those interactions play out?
Oh, that's such a good point, actually. That would have been cool. I mean, I don't know. The only thing is with that is that obviously Our Flag Means Death is a comedy, right?
Yeah.
Um and it's from those guys who like do comedy so well. And this is I don't know if it would be a distraction, if like Jesse James came in and like or God, I'm losing, I can't think of any, but like or Wild Bill, like
Yeah.
it's famous names from the Old West. It might be a distraction from the story at hand. And also, I mean, we already have some because like Jesse Evans was a gunslinger in his own right, Pat Garrett, like they already crossed paths. But I don't know. I mean, in a dream world, if I could bring someone in, I'd love to see Jesse James and Billy cross paths at some point. That would be cool.
Yeah, it'd be so cool. My brain instantly was like kissing Kate Barlow, the fictional character from the book
Oh. That's actually fun. That's actually really fun.
I
Yeah.
went. I was like,
Yeah. Yeah, that would be great.
but thank you so much for talking with me, and I can't wait for everyone to get to see the rest of the show.
Likewise, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great one.
Great.